Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. We are in for a treat over the next 45 minutes to an hour. I have with me some experts in business and doing business with the government. So first, I would like to introduce one of my panelists, Mr. Kevin Clemens from Clemens, Inc. Wave to the audience. All right. And then Kevin, while we have you, if you can tell us a little bit about your business, the value that you bring to your current client base, and just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Hi, my name is Kevin Clemens. I'm a Dayton resident, born and raised. My company's called Clemens, Inc. We do a lot of defense contracting at the base. We have three different business lines. One's logistics, one's construction, and the other one's IT. Trying to think what else they need to know.
Yes. Yeah. So Kevin graduated from Central State.
Yeah, I'm a Central State resident. I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years. Hoorah. And wanted to stay in this area because of all the innovation that Dayton has gone. The history of Dayton, if you don't know, it's the Silicon Valley before Silicon Valley. Just wanted to be a part of that and grow the city, and that's about it.
Okay, awesome to have you. All righty, thanks. So then we're going to turn it over to Jeff Addison. He is the president and CEO of Technovate. So Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and some of the services and value added that your company adds to your client base.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for having us. Once again, I'm Jeff Addison, president of Technovate. Technovate is a software development company, solutions company. It was a purpose-built company. It was born out of a tragedy, to be very honest with you. My wife came down with breast cancer, and while I was sitting there looking over the data as an engineer, is what you tend to do. I felt helpless. I couldn't really do anything to help her other than just be a moral support. So we decided that, hey, that's not going to happen again, at least not on our watch, on my watch, or whatever. And so Technovate was born to build software to solve big problems, in society. And hopefully in the process of doing that, we can make a few dollars. And so that's what we do. We're based right here in downtown Dayton. We're just a bunch of geeks. I guess maybe I'm the king of the geeks, I guess, at least in my company anyway. And that's what we do. So a little bit about my background. I'm from Texas, and I came by way of Ohio on a military assignment. I had the good fortune to go to the Air Force Academy out in Colorado Springs, did a few this and that. I got a chance to fly a few cool aircraft, do a few this and that in the Air Force. It's been fun. So we ended up here. I'm married to, have a lovely wife, lovely three beautiful daughters who keep me on my toes, and that's it.
Awesome. Okay, and I am Lisa Coker, the CEO of Infinite Management Solutions. We are located downtown Dayton as well. We are a change management transformation consulting agency, doing work primarily in the Department of Defense with a few commercial clients down in Cincinnati. So happy to be here, and we are here to pick the brains of these two gentlemen and myself. So first question, since our panel deals with some of the pitfalls that business owners would run into as they get probably their first or second government contract. So we want you all to share your lessons learned and some best practices and some tips so that we arm our audience with some value-added information. First question deals with what's one of the largest challenges or pitfalls that you all had to overcome when you won your first few government contracts? So I'll turn it over to you, Kevin. Absolutely.
The first pitfall I think anybody's going to run to once you win a government contract of any size is going to be financing it. Depending on how you're set up in their system and how quickly they pay, you may have to float salary to up 30 to 45 days. And depending on how many people you have and what the skill set of those people are, that could be a pretty substantial cost. And that'll keep you up at night trying to figure out how to just make payroll on something. And sometimes the issue I had on service contracts, because it's not like I have a truck or some equipment that the bank could actually come get, going to a bank and saying, hey, I have this contract, it's a service contract, and they're looking at me saying, well, there's nothing we can take from you if the thing doesn't go right. So that was one of the things that shocks is say, okay, I have this, let's say, $250,000 contract, and you're saying, okay, I have this contract, I need to fund it, I have to have a payroll of so many dollars for the next month. You go to the bank and you think they're going to give you money because you have a government contract. Oh, you'll be sadly mistaken.
Yes, which leads me down the access to capital question. So Jeff, talk to us about some of the challenges you may have had to overcome with regards to access to capital.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Lisa, because I guess being from Texas, being by the way from Texas, you think you're smart, but you're really not. So that's kind of how I kind of approached it. I just thought, hey, we'll just make good products. We have a good team, and we'll just work 24 hours a day, and then that'll fix it. And when I need a business development person or a marketing person or all those things, I'll just go to Kroger's and get them off the shelf.
Right.
Because who wouldn't want to be part of Technovate? And that's kind of what I thought. And I just put my head down and started working with our team. But if I had been smarter, maybe if I had been originally from Ohio or something like that, or from Dayton, or had a good fortune to go to Central State, I would have, known to think that maybe if I had a little capital, that maybe we could have started a little further down the line and then market our products to customers sooner, and then had paying customers sooner, and understand that. I didn't really think in those terms, and I didn't mean it. I didn't do it out of arrogance. I did it out of naivete, to be very honest with you. So if I can give any advice, whatever numbers that you think you're going to need, you may have to double, triple them, or quadruple them, maybe even more than that, depending on what you're doing. And you may not need all the money at one time. And you may say, hey, I need a little bit here. I win a contract. I'll leverage that contract to go get additional resources, and accept that you may have to grow slower, but you'll grow better. And then maybe get a chance to get a little bit of sleep in the process.
Sleep is always good. Okay, so with regards to access to capital, I'll just share a nugget that one of my mentors shared with me, and that was get the money before you ever need it, because by the time that you need it, the bank may not approve you. So foster relationships with your bankers and ask for the money ahead of time, because as a new business owner, don't worry, you will need to use it. So that's my access to capital tip. Okay. Next question. All of us have done work with industry partners and commercial clients. And so I want us to share some of the tips or the differences of doing business with industry partners, meaning commercial clients, versus government clients. And let's talk about the time that it takes to get on contract and things like that. Let's talk through those pitfalls and challenges. You can take it.
Most of our customers initially were primarily in the private sector, commercial clients, and the pros and cons. The pro would be if you have a conversation with an owner of a company, a medium-sized company, and literally you can do a contract on a napkin and get started. The challenge of that, though, is that sometimes those contracts can be very fleeting. Sometimes, to be very honest with you, and sometimes payment will be slow and maybe sometimes non-existent because they're private companies and don't have the fiduciary responsibility like the government entity. So on the flip side, though, I think the government client is doing very meaningful work and very risk averse, so it takes longer to get the contract and to earn their trust. But I think once you do that and you show that you can perform, I think it's, in some respects, a much steadier way to grow your company, in addition to private sector. At least that's been our perspective so far. We'll see how it plays out over the next year or two, but that's kind of what I've seen so far.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Well,
Kevin.
my experience between the corporate and federal working is all clients want what they want. I mean, whatever product or service they want, actually, they want you to give them more than what you ask for, what they ask for. But the good thing about the government, I will say, if you're in the programs that some of the set-aside programs, or they know that you're a small business, you can work something out with them a little bit better than a corporate person, unless they're being a good corporate citizen and trying to nurture you as a business. Well, if you're coming in with an understanding with a corporate partner and say, hey, I'm a small business, can you pay me a little bit sooner? And maybe have that dialogue beforehand. Because if you don't have that dialogue, they're going to assume that you got all your stuff together and that you're not going to need any help and you're going to provide whatever product or service that they're asking for. But with the government, again, like you said, it's I won't say it's more rigid of exactly what everything is lined up and you know where you're at and it's more structured. It kind of is in some aspects, but I think working with the governments in some cases, not all, is a little bit better unless you have a very good rapport with the company that you're working with or providing a service for.
Awesome.
I'd like to just throw one little comment on that.
Absolutely.
One thing sometimes working with the government can really provide you a chance to do really interesting projects. Because on the private sector, sometimes the private sector may only be able to think, a few months ahead. Which I understand for sure. The small companies sometimes it's a day ahead, but with government customers, they can really think further out, and so you can really do some exciting things and really kind of push the envelope. So that's how we ended up with the internet and all these kinds of things, because someone thought ahead of time. So in some respects, you can actually do really exciting things with the government.
Bleeding edge technology.
Yes. Okay, so for our business owners who may have won their first or second contract, what would you say the kind of timeline is from the time that they have met with the potential customer and they say, I want you for your service? What has been your experience from that point on to when you actually get the contract and can start working?
With the government, it's a lot longer. We had a contract that we submitted and started talks in September of one year and actually did not start work or finalize anything until February of the next year. So, and you're actively working on this. So you're spending dollars a lot of times and you don't even know if you won the thing or not. And so the lead time is long. Now, it depends on the time of the year with the government, too. Sometimes you roll up on where they need to get money out because they're about to hit their fiscal wall and there's programs they need to do, but you have to have a good relationship and they kind of need to know you to say, okay, there's some work here. We know you can do it. We're going to give this work to you. Other than that, if you're bidding, it could be, if you're a larger company, it could be a year. In the corporate, in the private or city or state, it's a lot quicker. Usually they put out a proposal, there's a due date the proposal's in, and probably a week later, if your number comes in right or you're technically acceptable, you'll get it. But the government, they'll take forever. So just be prepared for that.
So federal government for you has been up to 5 to 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Be prepared. Okay. Have patience.
Lots of it.
Okay. All right, Jeff.
I've had crazy extremes. I've had extreme where we literally started a contract on a cell phone call at that particular time, where someone said, hey, can you start? I said, we're starting now. And we did that. And then I have customers that we've been talking to for the past 2 years. If we can get it down to 5 months, that'd be awesome. So maybe if you want to have some lunch, please, if you tell me how to do that, I'd be appreciative.
And that was with a relationship I already had, so that's why it's 5 months.
I'd be greatly appreciative of that.
And these guys probably will stick around for a few minutes for happy hour. So if you want to pick Kevin's brain about how you get the process down to 5 months, we can pick his brain. Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, so we all know that doing work with the federal government, or at least the Department of Defense, most work requires some level of security clearance. What has been your experience around security clearances, and what would you tell someone who was looking to do work with the Department of Defense or who has just landed their contract around security clearances, overcoming those challenges? Let's hear your experience.
My first security clearance was when I was in the Marine Corps. We got pretty much a secret clearance. And then my second was when I went to work for Multimax, which became Harris. I got an interim. And now our company has a top secret FCL, facility clearance. To get your first secret clearance, you just have to pass, they'll run an initial background check on you, but it will take probably up to a year before you actually get cleared. So you can pretty much do classified work if something doesn't come back up to a year before they finalize it. For a top secret, good Lord. During maybe 2 years or 3 years ago, I think there was a problem with clearances, and it was taking years to get a top secret facility clearance. So they were like gold. If you had it, companies were grabbing you up because they were taking the government so long to process them. But if you get it, it's golden. I mean, it's something that it's definitely set your company apart from another company by having that. And there's contracts, especially on the government side, that you can't get without it. And it's a good marketing thing if you go to a commercial side of commercial side of business and you say, hey, we have a security clearance. So at least our company's been vetted by the government that we're not terrorists or something crazy like that. So it's always good to be able to have that in your feather in your cap. So.
Okay, that's a good tip. I never thought about telling commercial clients that you have a security clearance.
You've been vetted by the government.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, Jeff?
I have a slightly different perspective on that because everything he says is right. The challenge, though, sometimes is that, like from my perspective, coming out the military, how I did, you had all those clearances and you just took them for granted. And one thing that I've learned is that internships are not necessarily just for college students. Like Technovate, if you want to hire us just for a security clearance to reactivate our security clearance, we'll happily take that. So what I mean by that is that you may have to, while you're starting your business, to go out and find a company, a larger company, and assist them in whatever way that's possible to either access your first security clearance or rehack your previous security clearance that you had while in military or government service. And in doing so, just like the smart Ms. Lisa said before, the time to do it is when you already have the clearance. Because just like getting resources from the bank, it's that because when you need the resources is when the cash flow is a little bit lower, or when you need the clearance is when maybe you don't have access or the proximity to those relationships to get the clearance because you kind of took it for granted. So that would be my advice, is that if it's something that you're interested in doing, make some effort now. You'd be surprised what a company around here, especially with the difficulty in hiring, that may be willing to assist you to get your security clearance. And maybe you're working for peanuts. That's okay. You get a security clearance in the process, and that may be worth gold later on down the line.
Let me add to that. I was a little misleading because when you get a security clearance, you have to have a reason to have a security clearance. So that's one thing. You can't just go out and say, we're going to get a security clearance. So you probably have to partner with a company that already has a DD-254. I think that's, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And that's, okay.
Yes.
And then they have to put you on that contract so you can start the process. Now, once that contract is over, that DD-254 is finished with, your clearance is done. So it sits in limbo until you get back on another DD-254. So it's not like they give you a clearance and then you have a clearance for 6 years. You have to have a reason to have that clearance. So it's tied to something called a DD-254 that's tied to whatever company or whatever work that you're doing for the government. So with a top secret clearance, I think I had, once you get your top secret clearance, I think, and don't quote me on this, or I think it's 8 years that it can sit dormant before it'll just go away and you got to go start the whole process over again. So don't think that, well, let me go get a clearance. No, it doesn't work like that.
Okay. So by having security clearances or having your FCL to be able to, what does that allow you to do as a company owner, having an FCL?
An FCL basically allows you to bring classified people onto your company. So if I hire somebody on and they already have a clearance, I take over their clearance. So your clearance moves from company to company, or if you're in the military, it stays with the military. But so if I hire somebody from Boeing and they had a clearance with Boeing, I take that clearance from Boeing and I put it onto my system. That's what an FCL allows you to do. And believe me, if you ever get an FCL, hire somebody to manage it. I almost got a bad sack because I was the FSO, which is the Facility Security Officer, and I had no idea what I was doing. And then we got audited, and I barely got a pass. So that's not, you have to be, it's very lucrative. You have to be very careful with that. So make sure you hire somebody, or at least part-time, have somebody run your facility clearance if you ever get one.
Okay, that's an awesome tip.
Those are great gems. Really, when you're starting out, and one thing that we're learning, and like I said, if I had been smarter, I would have known this sooner, is that, partnering with companies. Like, so we have a certain expertise that we're known to be good at, and our companies could leverage that expertise. And with them, maybe they will allow us to be on part of a contract where we could begin that process. So at some point we could have our own FCL and have our own, facilities officer in the company manning that for Technovate. So these are great ideas so it's not just for everyone. I'm learning too. So
Right.
I've already applied something that from a meeting that Lisa brought to our pre-planning meeting, and I got a call back. So I'm thankful.
Whoa.
I did. So
Okay.
thank you, Ms. Coker. That's great. So
Well, we do a lot of pre-planning, so thanks, Jeff, for putting that out there. But that's awesome. I'm glad it worked. Next question with regards to some tips. What would you say your top 2 or 3 tips that you would share with a business owner who is looking to do work with the federal government? You can take it from some challenges you overcame or something a mentor or advisor has shared with you. But feel free, whoever wants to take this, just let me know. Who wants to take the...
One of the top tips, I guess, is depending on where you start at. Like, the one thing I used to hate when I was coming up, that people always assume when you're a small business, they think you're like a one-man shop. Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. At the time, I was a one-man shop, and one of the things that I would say is spread out the expertise. You're not a guru in everything. I don't balance my books. I don't do any of that. I have to have somebody else do it. My main focus is to try to work the business, grow the business, not work in the business. I have people to do that. So if you can, because a lot of times you have to be your finance person, your BD person, your marketing person, you have to go do all this stuff. You have to do all the paperwork. If you can hand it off to somebody else that you trust can do a good job, do it. Because the main thing I've seen a lot of business fail for people a lot smarter than me is they're working the business, where they're actually on contract instead of being outside the contract and trying to grow their business. So when the contract ends, the business is done. So they weren't able to generate any other work. So that's my tip.
That's a good one. Okay.
it's kind of tough to follow that up, because I need to have my pen and paper so I can write some of these things down.
I've stepped on a lot of landmines.
No, this is great stuff. I mean, he's right. You're going to work hard. That's just a given. You need to be humble with your customers, potential customers. The good Lord gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth, so I think that's for a reason. So, but that said, you need to be very organized up front. If I could do anything again, the advice that he brought out, I'm learning some of those things now, and that's okay. But like I said, if I'd been maybe a little less hard-headed, or maybe a little bit, slowed down to go faster, maybe I could have picked on some of those things sooner. And that's coming from someone with my experience. You think you know a lot. One thing I've learned in business, that only thing I know is that I don't know anything at all. So that I know for certain. So I'm just going to piggyback on what he said. So ditto to whatever he said over on that particular issue. So.
Okay. So I have a few tips. I would automatically say build the right team. So just like my 2 partners here have said, it takes a team. It really takes a village. You may come up with the idea, the vision, but you can't execute the vision by yourself. And if you can execute the vision by yourself, then the vision isn't big enough. That's the first thing, building the right team. The next one I would say is network. So, and I say that because it's very important for you to be where your potential customers are. It does you no good to be in a room where your customers will probably not appear or be there. So you have to, one, figure out who your target customer is, and then where do they go? What types of events do they attend? And wherever they are is where you need to be, okay? That's one. And then around networking, ask for warm introductions. Warm introductions go a long way. You know how many emails I probably sent to potential clients behind that fence that they probably never opened or hit delete. But if the introduction came from a name that they recognize, they would open it. And then from there, you know, it's an introduction. And from there, whatever happens, happens, right? But you have to get your foot in the door. People have to know, like, and trust you, right? In order for them to know you, they have to see you. In order for them to like you, you have to talk to them. In order for them to trust you, you have to do what you say you're going to do. So those are important, the know, like, and trust. When you're talking to a potential client, it's easy for us to sell our product. I do program management. I do process improvement. How does that help me solve my problem for the day? That's what the customer cares about. So one of the biggest things is, and it takes time, it takes resources, but figure out who is your customer, and then you figure out where are they headed? What does the strategic plan say they have to do? Where are they now, and what are their pain points? But no kidding, what does their boss's boss have to achieve over the next 3 to 4 years? And how can whatever you are selling help them achieve that goal? Goal mindset, right? It's unfair for us as business owners to put the responsibility of the client to figure out how they can help us. That's our job, to tell the client how we can help them. And then by way of that, they will help us. So help me help you, basically. So do the work up front. It's time consuming, but it's well worth it. I would say.
Need to foot stump that a little bit.
Which one? The homework?
No, what you just said. I mean,
Oh,
no,
okay.
I'm serious. I applied that yesterday, exactly what the conversation. So we got the.
Okay, good.
So I got the follow-up meeting on the 29th.
It worked.
For sure. I'm just telling you. So I mean, story. It's just so we've been trying to get to this person for 7 months, and so
Yeah.
thankfully I was humble enough to listen, and what can I say? So if I'd been listening 7 months ago, maybe we would have had to meet and already had the contract, but maybe I wasn't ready at that point. So.
Right, but it's important to put ourselves in the shoes of our potential clients. They are busy, they are swamped, right? So what can we do to help ease their burden? That's what they care about, and you got to know what the burden is in order to help them ease it. So you have to do the legwork up front, but it pays off in dividends on the back end. So yes, so my 2 tips were build the right team and then network. And I would say, do your homework, right? Do the pre-planning, do the homework, and take care of the client. Put their needs at the forefront, and they'll keep calling you back because they know that you care.
I'm going to put some on that too, because you got to be able to play Rochambeau. I mean, those first customer conversations that we have, we go, oh, we should have been ready to answer this question. We should have been ready to answer questions. It helps if you can think 3 or 4 steps ahead of what the questions are of what you want to put in front of people now. Because when they come back with questions, it's really helpful when you can come back quickly with the answer.
Absolutely. And I learned this when I was in the Air Force. make your boss's boss shine. So if you know who your client is, who is their boss's boss? Everybody cares to make their boss and their boss's boss shine. So help them do that. And by way of that, everybody wins. So those are my tips. Okay.
Great tips.
All right.
That's another thing too. If you're wondering if you got the stuff, when the Dean of Research came over and introduced me to a dignitary who came in and says, I need you to listen to Amy, I was like, I may have that stuff. That was kind of like the beginning sign that I had the kind of influence that would be able to make a difference in this team. So I'm still working at it, but when people want to introduce you, that's a really good sign.
It really is. It really is. You may never do business with me, but if you would just do the honors of doing a warm introduction, and I don't even mind crafting the message for you because I know you're busy. Tweak it a little bit, but if you would just do me the honors of a warm introduction, that goes a long way. Okay. Now, we talked about pre-planning. So we had a few tips and lessons learned that we went through yesterday. Let's talk about how you have leveraged mentors or strategic partners to sustain and grow your business. And what would you share with the audience around that? You want to go?
Sure.
Okay.
That's a great point. I'll be honest, with kind of how I was raised, I was always taught, hey, I always had to prove it to myself, I could dig it out the mud myself, that kind of thing. But like you said, you won't be successful doing that. At least that, I can only dig a ditch a certain size as one person. Mm-hmm. And so what I've had to do is to learn how to reach out and not only to be a mentor myself, but also be a mentee so someone can tell me and give me some advice and be able to put that in action. And then sometimes what I've learned too is that instead of just going to ask for help, I try to see how I can be of service to a potential mentor and then let that service lead to a stronger relationship. Mm-hmm. And that has been, helpful for us. And so like even here, so if Lisa asks me to do something, I just say when, and what do I need to wear? That's pretty much it.
Jeff said what time and what should I wear?
That's it, and because I want to be of service, right? Because it's already paid dividends already. I'm just being honest with you. So that's a little bit different take on the question, but that's kind of how I view it. So make yourself of service, and you'll find more than enough mentors for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, Kevin.
My experience has been when you sit down with a client, especially when you're new and you're starting out and they're looking at you, one of the things they're probably thinking is risk mitigation. Okay, I'm going to give this person a shot. Are they going to blow up my plan or whatever when I do this? So one of the things I did, I was lucky that when I worked at NCR, I had a mentor, a guy named Tom Volpe, that actually helped me when I started out early in my business. So I went to a meeting one time and just bombed. And I knew going out the door I wasn't going to get to work, and I didn't. So my next meeting I took Tom with me. And pretty much after hearing, I'm the vice president of NCR, I worked on $6 billion programs, I did this, even though I was in the room and I was the one that they were looking at, having him in the room with me and his pedigree, I leveraged, even though he wasn't even going to work on a project or anything, that leverage of that, oh, this guy's got somebody like this in his corner, he must know what he's doing. So, and I've done that before. I have a background in computer science. I won't even touch my laptop. When I go into meetings now to talk about cybersecurity, I take my cybersecurity guy. Once they hear his pedigree, they're like, okay, he's got a guy that knows what he's doing. Now I can talk to him and figure out what we're going to do next. So that's how I leverage a lot of stuff. I learned a lot by. Sometimes you might not have the skill set they need. Bring somebody in the room that has a skill set that they need, and a lot of times that helps out. So I don't know if that's disingenuous or what, but it worked for me.
It's a nugget. That's what we're here for, right? Our audience members can take what they want from what they're hearing, and this is no kidding our true stories. the way we've lived this thing out, and we're continuing to enjoy the journey. So my experience with strategic partners, I would say definitely going back to that networking, because not only are you networking to meet potential clients, you're networking to meet strategic partners, you're networking to meet people in the industry. I mean, just from talking with these two gentlemen, I learned so much just yesterday, right? And so the more you network, the more you can learn, the more you can share, right? Because the more relationships that you have, you don't just take. So these gentlemen are gonna be calling me here soon saying, black dress on Tuesday night at this. So it's all good though, right? But as far as networking with the strategic partners, one of the things that I think has helped us is subcontracting. So no kidding, not being afraid to subcontract under a prime, whether it's a large prime, partnering with another small business or a medium-sized business, because when you're new to this, there's so much to learn. How do you invoice? How do you make a purchase order? Yes, risk management. How do you fill out reports and DD Form 254s and things like that? Having a prime contractor that you can leverage for that type of information is invaluable. I know some small business owners who go right out and do prime contracting, right? And good for them. But I can tell you that subcontracting under different partners, we've learned a lot. And a little bit you can leverage. Yes. So it's been nice. But no kidding, get out and meet people. The different expos and things like this, coming out to Dayton Startup Week, going to different colliders in the area, those types of events, they're there for us. And so as business owners, you have to get out there. I know our schedules are tight. We talked about that, right? Working 12-hour days, but you have to make time to get out and meet people.
But if you want to start kind of like a topic of a collider, do you think there's good infrastructure? Where do you think that comes from? So we really want to talk about night missions for drones. So we think that we know people in the area who want to do night missions.
Yes.
And we think that that's going to be a big deal.
So I think we have a great contact over at Wright Brothers Institute, Jim Masonbrink, who puts on a collider probably at least once a month. If not more often than that. But you can find him on LinkedIn. He's active on social media, but his name is James Masonbrink. He goes by Jim. But make the idea known. I think he'll pick it up if there's enough traction. And that's another thing, like leveraging the partnership intermediary agreement partners in the area. So from Wright Brothers Institute and Apex, who's here, which is a part of Parallax, we're literally blessed to have those two partners in Dayton, Ohio. Because for our partners or business owners who don't have clearances and IDs to get on base behind the fence to talk to people, they help us make that connection. And so leverage them. Apex, APEX, and WBI, Wright Brothers Institute, they're partners in the area that help small business owners, meet with potential clients and things like that, networking events. So any last things you want to share? Any last tip you want to share?
Yeah,
Okay.
don't be afraid to fail. Just like we all learn to walk by falling. So look at it as a chance you learn something. Every time if something doesn't go your way, you learn not to do it that way. And stay focused. I read somewhere that Warren Buffett and the Microsoft, Bill Gates, thank you. Were asked what was, in one word, what would be the thing that would, that made you successful, and they both wrote down a piece of paper when they flipped it over. It's basically focus. Stay focused on what you're trying to do. You're a brave soul to start your own business. You may get some negative stuff from people that they actually go get a paycheck from other places. They work for somebody, so they may think you're crazy for doing it, but just have the strength to stay focused and Don't be afraid to fail, and don't look at it as a failure. Actually, look at it as a learning experience of what not to do next time.
Great tip. Okay, Jeff?
Well, I mean, to start your own business, you have to be just a little crazy. So, and don't run from that. What I mean by that is that those are the things that make you unique. And he talks about the focus part of it, and so I won't repeat that because that's 100% true. But I'll go back to if you make yourself of service, and you humbly work in that direction, you will avail yourself that people will want to assist you. When they say like 80% of life is showing up, I think what they really mean is that if you show up at the right way with the right work ethic, prepared, someone's going to say, hey, I need your help. And you're in a situation to help. And then you'll build relationships just off of being of service and showing up and being there. And this is just the simple things. So whatever education or degrees that I've been blessed to have, that's great. But it just goes back to the basic lessons that I learned from my grandmother, or mowing the lawn in the hot summers in Houston. That if you didn't do it by 8 a.m, it was already 100 degrees. And if you wait to 8:30, it was just too late. And so, those kinds of things are the lessons that I rely on most now to be successful in business. Because there's always someone smarter, always someone younger, always someone fresher or newer. But that's necessarily someone who's going to be of service and work hard to get the mission done. So.
Yes. Okay, so my thoughts around focus. Oh my goodness, that is very important. Part of being focused means that you're not going to accept or do everything that comes your way. That's hard. That one is hard. As a small business owner, you're looking to grow the company, and you get all these types of opportunities. But no kidding, being focused, like what you read, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, that means they're laser focused on the goals, their vision, and if it doesn't align with those things, it's probably a hard no, right? And I've been learning that no is a complete sentence, right? No. Can't do it, no. So that one, and then I would have to say, so staying focused, and the other one has slipped my mind. So I need to stay focused. Thank you. If it comes back to me, I'll bring it up. But I did want to open it up. I think Audrey if we have time, I don't know how much time we have left. Okay, so about 10 minutes. If we wanted to open it up for questions, I'd love to field some of the questions to our panelists. Yes, gentleman in the blue long sleeve.
So we all know that the threat landscape is rapidly changing. Unmanned vehicles, machine learning, cybersecurity, and some of those are hitting us at home now, which is a whole new warscape. What kind of new pain points do you see in the near future that maybe a scrappy startup type company may be able to address that maybe isn't immediately being addressed right now? What kind of potential opportunities do you guys see in the near future?
Is that probably in your wheelhouse, or cybersecurity?
Sure.
Okay. Either one.
You want to go? You want me to?
Just based on what you were saying, I'm sitting there thinking, tracking data, being able to track your personal data. If I had a software that can actually go out and find out where my data and stuff is at, or how things are out there that you pretty much probably can't pull back now or control my personal data, I guess would be a better thing. Where it goes and who's using it and how they're using it, and fight against the algorithms that are fighting against you to get you to buy something, stuff like that. I would think that would be something unique. I don't know how doable it is because I think everything's already out there, but
I just
Hopefully
learned about a startup that's doing some stuff around that as
really,
well.
that was off the cuff, so
Right, yeah. Okay, Jeff?
To kind of piggyback on that, securing the landscape that allows us to work collaboratively, that's not going away. We're in a hybrid environment. I'm sure we'll eventually, we're social by nature as human beings, but we will work collaboratively from now on. I mean, once you've gotten comfortable working in your Birkenstocks or slippers, it's kind of hard to go back to something different. And so it'll be a hybrid, some type of hybrid. How that is, I don't know, but it will be. So if you could develop tools around that in a secure way that will facilitate the ability to do something like this in a remote environment. And I hate to say it, Zoom isn't it. I mean, Zoom is something that works for what its purpose, and I'm sure they're thinking about it too. I'm sure Teams thinking about it. Other organizations are thinking about it as well. But how do you bring that human touch to a hybrid environment? I think that's be a unique opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And I would also like to mention, no kidding, Googling our National Defense Strategy Plan, right? Google the Air Force Strategic Plan. Look up the AFRL 2030 Strategic Plan, right? All of those strategies will outline, at least at a high level, where our nation is headed or what we're trying to develop, and figure out which one of those goals or priorities your software or whatever you're developing would align to. Start talking to the right people, telling them how what you're developing can get us to where we need to be in 2030 or so forth. So good luck. Awesome. Any other questions for the panelists or for us rather? Yes.
Just real high level, loosely, piggybacking on the talk that happened earlier about SBIR phase 1, phase 2s, and phase 3s. What do each one of your companies what have you done as far as that goes? I mean, do you mostly do phase 1? Do you do SBIRs? Have you gotten phase 1s? Have you gotten phase 2s? Do you do SITRs and AF works and things like that?
We actually are in the process right now of trying to do a SBIR, going through the process. Our SBIR is basically how to Wi-Fi a skiff, which has not been done yet, and the protocols and the equipment needed to do something like that. So I'm new to it. I defer to Ms. Lumpkin about SBIRs. Matter of fact, again, it goes back to I have somebody that knows more than me doing it, and I just give them whatever they need when they ask it. So I'm sorry, that's a weak answer, but I mean, it's pretty much,
okay.
yeah.
Hopefully you win a SBIR.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
be nice.
If it's not a SBIR, then what kind of contract is the work that your company uses with the government?
We do logistics for the C-17, C-5. We do cybersecurity for some of the weapon system platforms, and we do construction. And it's a weird combination. We started out doing it. My background is in IT. I was on the mail team and firewall team at the base for a while, and then I found out about the SBA program, and I quit my job and started the company based on that. And so now I lost my train of thought.
I know, focus. No, so you're probably are you on some IDIQ?
Yeah, we just won we actually
awards?
just won an IDIQ at the base on the construction side, a flooring contract for the base. It's an IDIQ, about $10 million. We're partnered with a company called KBR on the logistics side for the C-17 and C-5 program. So it's a combination of a little bit of everything. And back to the partnering is just not for small companies. I mean, Boeing and Raytheon will partner to do something because each of them may have a certain skill set, the other one doesn't. So you just got to be strategic about it. As a small company, I would say partnering with a company that's not too much bigger than, I won't say not too much bigger than you, but I would have to have a really close relationship with the principal of the company that I'm partnering with if I was going to partner with a Boeing, because they're an 800-pound gorilla. You're nothing to them. So I don't think you're going to get the growth that you would need if you partner with, say, a MACB or something that's maybe in the $500 million range, not $100 billion range. You know what I'm saying? So you get a little bit, that's hopefully that helps.
That's great. Most of the stuff we're focused on are SBIR phase 2s. We haven't been awarded one yet, but that's what we're focused on because we have what they call COTS products, commercial products basically, that are kind of on the shelf in some respects. We were selected as an AFWorks Olympian for an advanced manufacturing challenge that all runs together. I think that was last year. So we were for our software technology on machine learning. It was like so that was a great. It came with some awards, a little bit of funding, some small things like that. So we were thankful for that. But ultimately, if you have a great idea, you have to, put the work in to kind of bring it to fruition. And the challenge is, how do you translate that idea to paper or to a presentation into the relationships? But like you said, there's experts here. We have Miss Anissa Lumpkins here, who's an expert in this field for AFRL, which is the leading research agency in the world, actually. You're right here in your presence with maybe, but just 20 feet, maybe. I'm not trying to put extra work on there, but I'm just saying, so right there, so that's.
And our company, Infinite Management Solutions, supports Ms. Lumpkin in the SIBR Sitter program. So again, testimony, I was at a networking event put on by Wright Brothers Institute. Thought about not attending because I was tired. It was in the end of the day, but something told me to still go. Ms. Lumpkin came and sat on the end chair. We exchanged cards, was listening to the Collider event, followed up. Had still been in her presence in a different other capacities. And when the opportunity presented itself, she reached out. She said, hey, Lisa, do you all do this, right? And so we've been blessed enough to support the SIBR Sitter program so that small businesses like you all, if you do go after phase 1s, phase 2s, phase 3s, that you can get the support and the contract and stuff like that you need. So we've been impacted tremendously in a good way by the SIBR Sitter program, not putting in the actual proposals, but helping to support the program. And so again, Miss Anissa Lumpkin, she's in the audience. And then also I'd like to mention Apex. They go by Parallax up there, but Dave Nestick, wave Dave. So Dave has a robust program. He partnered with Miss Lumpkin and some other AFWorks partners to do matchmaking support for sitters, right? So tap in. You have so many great resources just right in this room. And don't be afraid to talk to people. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself. Do we have time for one last question, or that's it?
One in the chat. How have you navigated the time gap for new hires that you sponsor for security clearances since it can take so long to obtain?
Yeah, that's sometimes with that, they pretty much, depending on the contract or how they wrote the contract, they may require the person to have a security clearance coming out the box, or they may give you a break and say, well, if the person can pass the first initial FBI check, they'll let you. When I got my first job, because at some point, somebody's got to get you on to start the process, unless you came out of the military with a clearance if you're just a civilian. So when I started working in Multimax, they hired me on, but it was, they ran a background check on you, they come back and they give you what they call an interim clearance, and then they run everything for it took them almost probably a year, and then they finally gave my security clearance. So that's one way. But it depends on the contract. I mean, the contract officer's pretty much got to say that, that's okay.
That an interim will work.
Yeah, that you can bring somebody in that doesn't already have one. I mean, they may have to, depending on what they're looking at. I mean, if they need to be looking at classified or top secret or something, that person needs to have that coming into the gate. But again, if it's something like I was on the mail team and I got on and they ran the background and took about a year and then I had a clearance.
Okay. Well, Kevin is our security clearance expert, so we let him field that question. Are there any more in the chat? Okay, and then there's one last. Yes, ma'am.
So, my name is Amy Magnus, and my company is Quantum Autonomy LLC. I work in advanced computation, what's properly known as artificial intelligence. And one of the things that I'm fighting against is that we've got, people talk about fake news these days, but we've got decades of misinformation about what that technology is. And so that's one of the problems that I'm finding going out and talking to people about what it actually is and what it can actually do for them, is that I'm constantly fighting against that misinformation. I'd love to hear your advice about that.
They think you're building Skynet or something?
I worked on that.
She is building Skynet.
Okay. Do you have any tips for her?
But I've actually worked on several different projects
I mean, when you're saying there's misinformation, who are you talking about? To your customer? I mean, the average person. Oh, really? Yeah, that's a hard one because I mean, educating your customers, you got to have proof or something. So that's a hard question for me to actually field. I mean, I don't want to give you a crazy answer.
Had you experienced that?
Yeah, I mean, you always have to sell yourself. So I think that I look at that as more of I have to sell the idea and I have to get people to believe into the vision I'm talking about. I mean, like I said, most people, one thing that I found out was when I go to someone, they go, well, you got a construction company, you got an IT company, you got this company, and they're like, how are you doing that? So I had to sit there and say, well, the people I have running each division are subject matter experts. I technically own the company, but they're the brains of it. So I had to sell that. But the first thought that when they walked in the door is like, you're too small to be doing all this.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
scaling is a big issue. They figure you're not Amazon.
Exactly.
Right.
So you have to say, all right, yeah, I'm not Amazon, but I got a guy that used to work for Amazon that did all their coding, or a guy that's at that same level of an Amazon coder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How, I don't mean to-
But you know, just a few years ago, Amazon wasn't Amazon either. So.
Yeah.
20 years ago, 15 years ago.
That's one of the things that kind of keeps you going is looking at how fast Facebook hit. I mean, it was less than 4 months, 4 years. It was less than 4 years between them being nothing and them being, inescapable.
Okay. Well, Audrey, or I guess is it time? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kevin Clemens with Clemens Inc. and Jeff Addison with Technovate. You'll be seeing these guys a lot in the Dayton area. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.